welcome back to another shared news from home. We have tons of stuff to discuss with you today. So much Bachelor tea. I cannot wait to get into it. As always, I'm your host, Morgan Wright, joined today by Avery Grooms. Avery, hey, how are you?
Hello, I'm great. What a crazy week I feel like it's been in Bachelor Nation. We definitely have some important topics to discuss today.
I mean, we have everything from an update on Michelle's season to Bachelor in Paradise to the Greg of it all. But before we get into it, as always, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future Bachelor Nation videos. So, first, we want to start off with a little update on Michelle Young's season. It's been confirmed by people that Tayshia Adams and Caitlin Bristowe are coming back to be co-hosts for Michelle's season of The Bachelorette. This will be season 18. Not mentors, co-hosts. Adam and Bristowe announced in March that they were going to step in and be mentors on Katie Thurston's season after Chris Harrison stepped down in February. I think, Avery, it's very important to note the change of the way that they're describing this, because during Katie's season at the beginning, they were very adamant in the fact that they are not hosts, they're not co-hosts, they're mentoring. Well, now it's official. They're co-hosting. Do you think that this means they're a lock for seasons moving forward? Or do you think that they're still maybe trying it out? One season went well. They want to see how a second season would go with Michelle.
I'm starting to think that it's a lock, mainly for The Bachelorette. I still don't know what they're going to do for The Bachelor, but I think they just started off introducing them as mentors just to kind of warm up the audience to change. And, this season went really well having them as mentors and co hosts. So I think they're in it for the long run. I think the big difference we see between Tayshia and Kaitlyn and Chris is Chris started off strictly as a host and then he was kind of a mentor to some contestants, whereas Tayshia and Kaitlyn started off as mentors and now they're going into more of the host position, which I think is way more valuable in this case. I mean, we saw in the last episode, Katie was on the floor crying and, Kaitlyn was right there with her, helping her through the whole thing because she's been through the same experience. And I think viewers really like that and want to see more of like the relatable aspect of the co-host.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I think that I'm taking away from this season, with this being the first time we're seeing Caitlyn and Tayshia together, is it does seem much more like I don't want to say support group because that's not the right terminology to use, but I mean, what you said, like when Katie locked herself in the bathroom and Caitlyn was talking to her through the door, you would have never seen Chris Harrison do that in that type of moment. I'm not really sure what he would have done. And it's like you said, my mind is going back to Matt James' season where they're both sitting, on the curb late at night. And he's like, do you still want to do this? But it wasn't like a full on, Chris is the shoulder to cry on. So I think that those are like the subtle difference, not really subtle. Those are the major differences that we're seeing in this season, is that also with them being co-hosts, they've been in this situation before, right? So they can help Katie navigate these really rocky waters that she's going through right now. And also they're relatable. We've seen their journey, we root for them, we cheer for them. Do you think that this season has gone smoother with the two of them than it has with Chris in the past? Or do you think they both ran pretty smoothly?
I think they both ran pretty smoothly for the most part up until Matt James's season. Having Caitlyn and Tayshia was not a fail. Like, I think it went really well, obviously, since they're going to continue to be the host. So I think it's only up from here. I think they'll just get better with more practice and continue to be mentors to contestants as well.
Yeah, and I think moving forward, like this first season was definitely a great test run, right? Because really not a lot of things went wrong. I think the only thing for me that felt a little awkward with these two hosting would be when they came in together and only one of them would say something, like at the rose ceremony when they would
Yeah.
both walk in and their matching black dresses or whatever color it was that day and say, okay, one last rose. And then Tayshia wouldn't say anything. I felt like that was a little bit awkward. Do you think anything else was awkward, or do you think that's it? Because I really do think that that was pretty much the only thing that might need tweaking moving forward.
Mhm. No, I remember thinking that was definitely a little weird. It's like if they're both gonna come out, have both of them say something, not just one person and then the other one just stands there. But for the most part, I think everything else was like pretty good. I think they shouldn't overdress them more than Katie or more than the lead, you know. I think their outfits should continue to be more neutral, just to not take away from the attention from the lead. But for the most part, I would say I agree. The only thing is like the rose ceremony that was kind of awkward, but other than that, I think it was all good.
Yeah, I do too. And like, I'm super glad that both Tayshia and Kaitlyn didn't show up to comfort Katie because then it's also awkward, like a 2-on-1
Yeah.
situation where I'm glad they just had Kaitlyn do it. I am looking forward to seeing Kaitlyn and Tayshia in the future. I was worried at first. On the first episode, they were featured a lot, almost as much as Katie, I felt. But I feel like they did back off, in the coming episodes and really focused on Katie. But before we move on, speaking of Michelle's season, we did recently do a shared news update where we went over all of Michelle's guys in depth. When I say in depth, this was like an hour long. We did all types of reactions and predictions. It's going up tonight, but we want to give you guys a quick sneak preview for joining in on our live today. Let's take a look at it.
Let's share who we think Michelle's first impression rose is going to go to. I have Spencer because he's a single dad. So I think that once Michelle finds that out about him, she's going to be super smitten with him and want to give him that reassurance. Fiona, why do you have Lumide?
So I have him because he played basketball in college. He's super, super handsome. I think he's going to be really well spoken. And I don't know why. I just feel like he might absolutely kill it out the limo with some sort of like basketball moment. And then when they sit down, he might hit her with like how smart he is, And then she's going to be like, oh, whole package, first impression rose.
Morgan, tell us about your decision with PJ.
PJ, I think is just my favorite, but he also has a great story. One, he's athletic. He was a former football player, but now he's an EMT and a firefighter, which I think is a great occupation to have. He also has his own foundation in honor of his brother who passed away. So pulling on all the heartstrings, I think he just has a good head on his shoulder. He has a good story, and he is a beautiful man. So I think he's definitely a front runner.
Period. Say less.
I mean, what can I say? He was hot. I mean, that's what I wanted to say. I said it in more or less words. And I do love a good story. So like I said, you guys, that video is going up today. Make sure you check back a little bit later so you can get the scoop on all of Michelle's guys. But like I said in that little sneak preview, I love somebody with a story. And Avery, the guy who stole all of our hearts this season with his story, Michael A. I want to talk about Michael A for a second because he recently did an interview with WKYC Channel 3, which is actually a news station where I'm from because Michael A lives about 30 minutes from me. So maybe we will run into each other one of these days. But basically, Michael A was saying that he has not ruled out the possibility of being the next Bachelor, but he did say that would have to look different. He said, I think my season would be very different. I'm not sure what that even looks like, but if it was this season or next season or whatever, James would have to be with me. Avery, I don't know if you remember this, but we have had a Bachelorette in the past, Emily Maynard, who did have a child, and the child was able to come spend time with Emily while she was filming her season. What do you think about Michael A, his potential as the next Bachelor? Do you think ABC would let him bring James? Go ahead and give me all your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I feel like the more we talk about it, the more I'm convinced that he could actually be the next Bachelor. Even you, Morgan, kind of convinced me. I know you were really on the Michael A train, and what we've seen from the past is if Bachelor Nation or the franchise wants something to happen, they'll make it happen. So I feel like if they are seeing so much positive feedback about him being the next Bachelor, they will make him the next Bachelor, and he can bring James, and they'll just sort it out in a way that it's okay for the both of them while also enjoying his experience and getting like the full effect of being the Bachelor.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the reason why I'm so drawn to Michael A is because of how unsuccessful the past 4 or 5 Bachelors have been. And I think it's because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, none of them really wanted to find a life partner and get married. I mean, you cannot say that Pilot Pete wanted to be a husband at the time that he was on The Bachelor. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dated three of his contestants after his season was over. And I mean, there's tons of other examples, but I feel like Michael A is actually in the place in his life where he is looking for a life partner. He is looking for someone who could kind of take over a stepmom role for James so that he could have that growing up. Michael also said that, speaking of casting the right people, he said, I would have to have casts that are actually willing to jump into this role. The casting question is an interesting one, too, though, because the Bachelor franchise, they did put out a casting notice. I don't know if you saw this, Avery, but it said it was a casting notice calling bachelorettes single moms and divorcees. Do you think this is a hint, or do you think the producers are just trying to mislead us? Because they do sometimes leave crumbs to lead us in this direction when really they're going this direction.
Mhm. I definitely think this could be a hint that he might be the next Bachelor, but I also feel like they just might kind of want someone like this in general, just because, like you said, we need people who are ready to actually be in a relationship, to actually get married. And, people who are like single moms or have already been in a marriage and are divorced are more likely to like take this more seriously. So I feel like just in general, the show would be more successful if they had more of people over their 30s and at that place in their life.
Yeah, and I do think that it's what the franchise needs. Like you said, somebody who we just
Hmm.
know is going to take it seriously, who just isn't in it for the Instagram clout. Because, I mean, if you think back to when this all started, it has changed so much. I mean, even just
Yeah.
with the growth of social media and influencers and all this kind of stuff, the series itself has morphed into something, a little wild. So I'm like, let's get back to the basics.
Hmm.
Let's actually find people who want to be married, find a wife on the show, find a husband on the show. But if it's not Michael A. Avery, let's just, get the options out there. Who else would you want to see? It could be someone from Michelle's season. We don't know. But if we're just going off of what we see from Katie's season or Tayshia and Claire's season, who would you want to see?
Yeah, so I mean, going off of Katie's season, I would have to go with Andrew. But now, like I said, the more we talk about Michael, the more I'm convinced that I rather have him over Andrew because, again, it's kind of iffy on if Andrew's ready. He just seems very young to me. But I'm hoping we just get some good contenders from Michelle's season and we can maybe go off from that.
Absolutely. Well, we can't wait. We're on pins and needles. You guys, we are taking questions at the end. So if you have any questions, comments, concerned about anything, whether it be Michelle's season, Michael A being the next Bachelor, please go ahead and submit those right now because, like I said, at the end, we will be answering your guys' questions. Let's move on to Paradise. Can you believe we are weeks away from Bachelor in Paradise? And we got a new look with some
Yay.
faces that have not been announced yet. This was super exciting. We have a couple different clips for you guys. We're going to break down the latest promo. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
Monday, August 16th. Paradise is back.
Let their journey begin.
Oh my gosh, even like 5 seconds, there's just so much. I was not excited for David Spade until this moment. Are you excited for the new kind of rotation of hosts?
Yes, I think I was most excited for David Spade. I'm just like a huge David Spade fan. I don't know why. I just think he's funny. And after hearing that he's such like a Bachelor fan, it made me like hop on this train even more. The other guest hosts, I'm kind of like iffy about. I feel like if we had to just pick one, it should be David. Everyone else seems kind of all over the place, but we'll see how they like navigate all that.
Yeah, and just to remind you, it's David Spade, it's Lil Jon, It's Lance Bass, who I'm excited for. I think he could do well in that environment. And Titus Burgess, who was on The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. That's what I know him from. I think he's really funny. But I'm with you, Avery. I'm most excited to see David Spade. But I also want to go to the clip real quick because I think we might be getting a first glimpse at one of the potential couples. Serena P. and Grocery Store Joe. Serena is jumping into Grocery Store Joe's arms. I was kind of taken aback by this. What do you think, Avery?
I was too, but like I could see it. This is something I could get behind. I kind of already like them together, even though I've only just seen this clip. But it makes me even more excited for Paradise.
I feel like how long is it going to take me and the rest of Bachelor Nation to stop calling him Grocery Store Joe and just call him Joe? Like that
Never.
poor guy. He's going to be Grocery Store Joe from now until forever. So this, you guys, might be a couple to look out for on the beach. Let's go ahead and break down the next clip.
Girls are kissing girls, guys are kissing guys.
You could actually fall in love.
You're so hot.
Both our hearts just skipped a beat, I think.
Okay, so we're seeing some more tea here. Girls kissing girls, guys kissing guys. Could you tell who Abigail was kissing? Because I've been trying to figure this out and I cannot tell for the life of me. Long dark hair in the back. It kind of looks like blondish.
Is it Victoria?
I have
no.
It could be Victoria. Maybe the other Serena. I think that might be her hair color. I have no idea. But speaking of Victoria, we do see her in this clip as well, rebranded, so we've heard, as Goddess Victoria. Here she is with her new crown, her new jewels. Go ahead and give me your first impression.
I don't think she needed to do all of this. Like the crown was one thing, but this is the first time I'm seeing the jewels and I don't think it's doing her any favors, but I also expected nothing less from her, honestly.
That's so true, but I'm just sitting here looking at her thinking, how does she expect people to take her seriously when she shows up like this? When she's had the season on Matt James season where she literally was the #1 villain and she wants us to believe that she's actually going on Paradise to find love. Do you think she really does want to find love or do you think she just wants any TV time that she can get?
I think she wants any TV time she could get. I feel like if she really wanted to find love, you know, she would take it a little more seriously. We wouldn't be switching characters, switching roles each time we appear on TV. When I was hoping she was rebranding herself, I meant like personality wise, maybe she would be nicer, less controversial, but no, we just went from queen to goddess, but we'll see how long she lasts.
Yes, time will tell. Now, there is another little sneak peek of a couple here in this clip. We see Ivan. He's on a date with Jasenia, which I would have not put these two together, but now that they are, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is literally a match made in paradise to me. What do you think about this couple?
I agree. I definitely didn't see this coming either, but now that it's in front of my face, I'm like, yes, that kind of makes sense. I'm hoping we get to know Jasenia a little more. I remember she was just kind of like in some of the drama and we may have not seen the best sides of her, but maybe Ivan will bring that out.
Yeah, I feel like all of Matt James girls in general, we really did not get to know them. It was like we only knew the drama. So I am excited to see more from them as well. I'm also glad that Ivan is on Paradise. You know, he was one of the ones that was vocal about if Chris Harrison were to return, he wouldn't have been, you know, up for going on that season. So I am glad that it all worked out with Ivan. I think he's going to be, he was a fan favorite already on Claire and Tayshia season. So I can't wait to see him in this environment, to see, you know, him really be able to connect with other people. All right, let's move on to clip number 3.
You can find better summer drama.
Everybody loves some Demi in their life.
Beach, please.
Okay, Dr. Joe, Demi, who was was not announced by the franchise. She was not in that initial roster that they put out on Twitter. Are we surprised that Demi is coming on Paradise again? Is this her second or third time? It's definitely a multiple time, but and geez, Kenny, like my gosh.
Wow. I'm excited she's there. I feel like this is what they needed. They needed this type of energy because a lot of the people this season are not some unfamiliar faces, and then other people we still don't know really well. But as Bachelor Nation as a whole, we all know Demi, and that's what we need to see on Paradise because I feel like she's going to bring out the fun and craziness in a lot of people.
Yeah, and they did say that this was going to be the most contestants ever on Paradise. I think they said like upwards of 30 different contestants. So I feel like the people that they are starting with are a lot of the newbies, but then they're going to bring back people like Demi. There's rumors that Becca Kufrin is going to show up. There's rumors that a lot of Kendall Long, just tons of people that aren't on that initial list. And I'm sorry, this still of Thomas crying, like, what is he going to be crying about?
I don't know, but why am I happy that he's crying? Like, I'm happy to get to see this because I feel like we need this. All we saw was him just be like, straight face, I did nothing wrong. I want to see him break down. I feel like he does kind of deserve it a little.
Yeah, when I look at this, when you were saying like he's like straight face, he to me was very robotic on Katie's season.
Mhm.
Like, I am here for The Bachelor. You know what I mean? Like, just no emotion, nothing. So to see him, like really distraught in this, I wonder if he ends up heartbroken. I don't know.
Karma.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. All right, you guys, we have one more clip, and this one is a bit intense. We have some speculation on what's going to go down, but it's a never before seen from The Bachelor in Paradise.
This has never happened before. It's no longer safe for you guys to stay in paradise.
I want to go home. What the hell is going on? Bachelor in Paradise.
Not safe to stay. I know I have a theory. Do you have any theories on what it could possibly be?
Well, first, my mind just jumped to like COVID, but I feel like they would take different precautions in a situation like that. So I'm thinking it's like something environmental, but I'm not really sure how that would work either. I don't know. Whatever it is, it probably isn't as bad as they're making it seem, how they like to be dramatic, but I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, your first gut reaction obviously is to think that it is something COVID related, but if that's the case, they would all be wearing masks while they were evacuating. They all wouldn't be going into the same van. They would probably be isolating. I definitely think it's going to be weather related. We never really found out when they actually started filming this, so I was trying to think like, did anything go down in that specific location? But we did have a lot of storms in like the spring into the summer. So maybe it was one of those. Anyways, you guys, that is all for the Bachelor in Paradise promo. It's back Monday, August 16th. We cannot wait. I just want to remind you real quick that we are doing a Q&A at the end of the live. So make sure to submit your questions, your comments. If you have any potential couples that you want to see, if you can figure out who Abigail was kissing, please let us know that in the comments because that was juicy and I really want to figure that out for some reason. All right, Avery, now let's move on to the good stuff. Still not over Monday's episode of The Bachelorette, everything that went down with Greg. Social media has just been buzzing since Monday night. I actually went back and rewatched it again today, but we haven't spoke about this yet. So I want to know your initial reactions to the Greg and Katie fight.
Okay, this was crazy. It was such a roller coaster. At the beginning, their first conversation, I understood where he was coming from and I understood his frustrations. He put everything out there on the line and she kind of gave him nothing back. But then it was the next day after he slept on it, he already walked into that conversation with his mind made up. And, he said he gave her everything and she barely gave him anything back. So that's it. He had to quit, which I really started to question, after all that, how can you just end a relationship like that? Like, he didn't even hug her goodbye. He just stormed out of there. And what I really didn't like about their conversations was how he was playing the victim. He was really like victimizing himself. Like, well, you don't know how I feel. And just like all this like poor me stuff. And it's like, okay, she does know how you feel. And she's also in a tough position at the same time. And now you're putting this all on her. And just, I think on both sides, it could have been, they could have done this a lot better, but in the heat of the moment, she seemed like she was in shock. She's still trying to digest everything that's going on, and he's just like latching out on her. It was just a really bad combo. Obviously, they could have both approached the situations differently, but it played out the way it did, and it wasn't a good look for him.
Yeah, I think that is what makes the situation a bit more complex because I agree with you. In the first setting, I was like, oh, come on, Katie. Like, he's really pouring his heart out to her, talking about the death of his father, which I could never imagine that type of pain. Also, having to navigate relationships with that kind of trauma on your shoulders has to be difficult. But at the same time, she had made up her mind that she wasn't going to tell anybody that she loved them. She stuck to her grounds, which I think she needed to do. And then the next day, it all kind of exploded. And I felt like it didn't need to get to that point, but I felt like Greg was just so angry that he was just like bursting at the seams. So while this was all going down or playing out on our TV screens, Katie seemingly accused Greg of gaslighting her. On her Instagram story, she posted a photo that said, "So you want to talk about gaslighting?" Which, by the way, I went to this Instagram profile. This was posted on April 18th by the original Instagram. So she had this saved, ready to go, knew that she was going to subtly call Greg out when all of this aired. I want to read the second slide because it explains a little bit what it means in case you're not familiar with the terminology. It says, gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse or psychological manipulation involving distorting the truth in order to confuse or instill doubt in another person to the point they question their own sanity or reality. Now, Avery, I know this is a heavy question to ask, but based on that definition, do you think that Greg was gaslighting Katie?
Based off the definition, I'm going to go with yes, because there was psychological manipulation within his conversation over and over again. And that also came with him playing the victim and just all that poor me stuff that I mentioned. I mean, it's crazy how this has been like a trending word lately, and now we kind of seen it come into play. But I definitely think there was a little gaslighting involved in their conversation.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to remember that, while I do agree with you, there was manipulation from Greg, and I think that he was doing it to get a reaction out of Katie because she wasn't really at first giving him one. I think it's a slippery slope to start getting down when we only see a fraction. You know what I mean? Like, their fight probably lasted hours, and us as viewers only got to see 30 minutes of it. It was probably very heavily edited, but this is coming from Katie. So Katie's the one who actually went through it for however many hours it was. And that's how she received it, that he was gaslighting her. I want to kind of recap the fight a little bit. Greg, like we said in the first scene, really did get very emotional with Katie here. He said that he was falling for her. She was the one. He wanted to propose. And Katie's response was, I just love looking at you, which we all were like, oh, that's probably not the best thing to say. And you can see that's like where the wheels start to turn in his head. He starts to spiral a little bit. And she says, you're here next week. We're almost there. And I do feel like she was trying to reassure him with those words, but I don't necessarily think that that was the best way to go about it because, like he said, it made him feel like this was just, going by the book as part of the show. Okay, you're number one, you're number two, you're number three. I can understand. I don't know. My head is just spinning, and Bachelor Nation is truly divided on who's Team Greg and who's Team Katie. You guys submit your thoughts, submit your questions, because we're going to do the live Q&A at the end, and I know we're going to get into all the Greg stuff. Like you said, I don't think Greg handled it the best the next day, but I do also think that anytime you go through a breakup, nobody's going to be the best version of themselves. Yeah. This reminds me of me and my ex-boyfriend. We fought constantly, and like, these are the types of fights that we had. I don't consider myself a fighter by any means because I've been dating my now boyfriend for 3.5 years. We have never, ever, ever had a situation like this, where in my past relationships, we have both gotten to that level of like fighting with each other. So do you think that maybe they're just not meant to be, that they just speak two different languages, that their relationship would not have worked out anyways?
Yep, I do. And I feel like this moment brought all of that to light. Yes, her response wasn't the best, but I feel like he put so much on her and she was trying to digest it in the moment and was so shocked that she didn't give the right response. And once he saw that, he just immediately shut down. I just feel like he's also dealing with some like inner traumas because it seemed like he was relying on Katie for all of his happiness, and she realized like she can't give him that. If she really was about it, she would pull a Claire and shut the whole thing down and run off with him. And I think it was just a sticky situation. She didn't want to hurt him that badly, but then he already was that hurt. So like you said, breakups aren't easy, and we're going to see the ugly in both people. And it's hard to say because I see both sides as well. I just didn't like some of the things he said, but it definitely could have been handled differently.
Yeah. And, that's another point that a lot of people are making. And even I thought this, if Greg is the one and Katie knows that and she like doesn't want to let him go, like, do you think that she really would have stopped it all right there? And does that make you think that in that moment she had more of a connection with Blake than Greg? And I'm sorry, we're just not even going to discuss Justin because he's pretty much not even there, right? Like, we all know that she's not going to end up.
Totally forgot about him. Yeah.
Exactly. So do you think that he was like really conflicted, maybe was in love with both of them and hadn't made up her mind yet?
I think so. And I think the more Greg opened his mouth, the more she was starting to realize like how much she didn't like this, or like it kind of brought to light a different side of him that I think she realized she didn't want to be a part of. And it was kind of like a sneak peek into if they were a couple and were going to get in fights and what it would be like. And I think that almost like finalized her decision in that moment, like, oh, Blake is the one.
Yeah, and I want to get your thoughts on this because I was thinking like, why now? Why would Greg do this now? And I think that it's telling that he did this before Fantasy Suites, because we have seen Greg be pretty jealous on the season, right? I mean, just in general, he would always say like, I don't do well in this environment. Whenever he caught that little peek of Katie and Blake's one-on-one, he kind of like had a moment too. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe he wanted to shut it down before Fantasy Suites because he couldn't handle like the jealousy of it. And in his brain, if he thinks that they're going to end up together, it's done, they're getting engaged, and this is like me speaking as him, right? Why would Katie need to go to Fantasy Suites with Justin and Blake when she knows that it's going to be me in the end? He didn't come out and say that, but I feel like that definitely the Fantasy Suite element was definitely in the back of his mind. I mean, did you think about that at all?
No, I 100% agree with you, especially after hometowns. Like, she met the whole entire family. He's probably thinking, why do we have another step? Like, this is it. That went so well. Come on, let's go get married. And clearly, when this all came out, he realized that wasn't the case. And we've seen him become really jealous. But he also, out of everyone, I think, got the most reassurance from Katie and also from the men. So I think it was kind of like a tug and pull with like, where he thought he stood, and then he finally realized like he isn't at the top anymore and just, couldn't take it.
Yeah, and I mean, it could have been an ego thing too, now that you say that. Like he thought this whole time, we all really did think that he was at the top of the pack. And as soon as he felt the slightest bit of, friction or maybe competition with Blake, he kind of freaked out a little bit. And I don't know, there's some people that think that he might come back. Do you think that he's going to come back?
I don't think so. Not after that, like, departure. And it's like, why? Maybe come back to apologize and have a proper goodbye, but coming back in terms as he will have a chance again, no way. I think they're done. And based off of like Katie's reactions now on social media, I still feel like there's, some anger towards him and like unsettled business, because that looks like the last time she ever saw him.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think she would have posted that story if they had smoothed things over at all. So I'm really looking forward to after the final rose, because I think this truly is the biggest like breakup fight that we've seen on the show. So it's very interesting. And I will say, I know we don't have the photo for it because literally like 2 minutes before we popped onto this live, I had noticed that we never saw Katie's like final proposal in any promo. Like, we never saw the long dress with her standing outside with the final rose. And it made me think maybe she doesn't even get to that stage. But before we came on this live, I did see it. So she does make it to the end. She does make it to that final rose ceremony where she's standing outside and there is one rose. So hopefully she ends up engaged to Blake, because it's not going to be Justin. We all know it's not going to be Justin at this point. Avery, do you have any like final closing statements about the Greg and Katie feud before we get into the live question and answer, which you guys, if you haven't yet, go ahead and submit your questions now while Avery, you give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird how at the end of the episode they did this little montage of like all their moments, and it was like a little like goodbye to Greg. Like they really haven't done that with anyone else, and I kind of was like, why? Like we just saw the worst of it all and they're trying to make it like more sad than it already is. I just thought that was really like weird that they did that.
Yeah, that was very strange. Like you said, I don't think we ever saw that. And it was such like there was so much tension at the end of the episode, then to go into this like soft piano music, them kissing in the rain 800 times. Like it was just so odd. I don't know why they felt the need to do that. It was like in loving memory of Greg and Katie's relationship that lasted 5 weeks. You know what I mean? Like it was just very, very strange.
So weird.
All right, you guys, that's all we have for you. But now we want to get into our question and answer. Let us know your questions, your opinions. Oh, yeah, sure. You got the photos. We got the photos. Okay, let's do it. I was really surprised by the photos because this sounds really mean, but this is my favorite look from Katie because we haven't got the best looks from Katie. I feel bad that is like one of the main talking points, but it just has been cringe. There she is. Look at her. What do you think of this?
That's really pretty. I like this. I feel like this is a good color on her. Like, I feel like this is the first time we've seen her in this color all season. But, they ended it right. After all those fail attempts of fashion, I think they got it right this time. It looks good.
Yeah, green is her color. I mean, I know it's not the lime green that she wore at the Men Tell All. I prefer this green, this like deep green. It's hard to pull off, but she looks stunning. Yeah. I love the side part. Look at her. Oh my gosh, that
slit.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love.
And you can see there's the one rose in the back. So I have my fingers crossed that this is all going to work out for her. I truly do think that she'll end up engaged. I feel like she would not go through all of this and then not end up engaged. Even if it sounds bad, even if she had doubts or second thoughts, I feel like she would just
Right,
kind of
yeah.
dive in with both feet.
I think so too. And I think she's just trusting her intuition. We always say like Katie's a girl who knows what she wants. And I think she's going to like live up to that by the end of this. And it's all going to be the right decision and work out the way it was supposed to.
Now, the real question is, will Justin make it to the final proposal day? Now that we know Katie's going to
Plot
be
twist,
there.
he wins.
I just don't even think that he's going to be there. Like we normally have the two guys go out. We don't know how it's going to end. We like see their feet come out of the limo, but we don't know, like, does that mean they're going to lose? Does that mean they're going to win? I think it's just going to be Blake. I think Justin will probably go home before this moment because I just don't see them there. I don't know. I mean, nobody sees them.
He doesn't need to be like put through that for no reason. Like, she should definitely. Does he even need to be going to fantasy suites at this point? Like, he should just. He needs to go. Poor guy.
Well, I think Katie wants him in fantasy suites because
she talked about this.
Yeah, she did say on like a rapid fire question run time that she was the most attracted to Justin, which we can all see why. I mean, he's beautiful. He's beautiful. Yeah. What can you say? All right, you guys. So now that we have seen Katie's final look, it is time for our Q&A. Like I said before, let us know your questions, your opinions. We want to hear from you, whether it's about Kaitlyn and Tayshia. I'm trying to start at the top. What in the world did we talk about? Co-hosting Michelle's season, Michael A. being the Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, or the Greg of it all. I keep saying that, but every time I think I have come to like conclusions in my head about Katie and Greg, I have a new opinion. You know what I mean? Mary says, hi, everyone. Hi, Mary. Thanks for tuning in. I love that red lipstick. Oh my goodness. Let's see if anybody else has some questions for us. But Mary, thank you, of course, for saying hello.
Thank you.
All right. Why don't you go ahead, Avery?
All right. Mary said, I love Chris Harrison, but with Kaitlyn and Tayshia, they bring the true reality of what reality TV is all about. I agree. It's fun to see someone who started off just as like a reality TV contestant kind of go into a more serious role and actually make it work. So maybe, who knows, in the future, they could start like alternating previous contestants as hosts on Paradise, maybe on The Bachelor. It just depends who could actually also do that job as well.
Yeah, I agree. It brings a whole nother level of like reality to it. I mean, even that scene with Katie and Kaitlyn, this past week, like that would have never happened with Chris Harrison, him sitting outside of Katie's door, Katie opening the door and crying into his shoulder. Like that would have never happened. And, Kaitlyn also had a bit of a difficult time at the end of her season with Nick and Sean Booth. And I feel like she did kind of go through something similar with Sean. He was a little bit jealous too. I see similarities there between Greg and Sean. Maybe that's why they sent Kaitlyn and not Tayshia. That's interesting.
I think, actually.
All right. Cynthia says, both Kaitlyn and Tayshia are good, but my opinion is that they are not so much better than Chris as you are making it out to be. Cynthia, we appreciate all the comments, all opinions. It's just my personal opinion that just because somebody has been on a show for so long doesn't necessarily mean that they bring a lot. Like, what really does Chris bring besides navigating the show? Avery, do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if we're just basing it off on like strictly a hosting role, obviously Chris is better at being a host, regardless what show it is, because he's had years of practice. He wanted to do this as a career path, whereas Kaitlyn and Tayshia, they started off as mentors, and now they're starting to get this host role and taking that on. But they weren't just signing up for the show to be a host. You know, they were previous contestants who just got this opportunity to now do this. So it's going to be different. It's not really comparable.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Alejandra says, okay, Demi is just looking to have fun, ... annoying. What do you think, Avery?
I could see how it is annoying, but then again, it's Paradise. You know, we have a lot more fun on Paradise, a little more chaos, and I definitely think Demi brings that, and that's what the show needs, just to lighten up the mood. You know, we've had some serious seasons of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and this is where all the fun begins.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that one. All right. Dina says Katie deserves something better than what Greg did. I think he forgot where he was. This is a competition. Yeah, that is something that a lot of people are saying too. Like, that's the way the show goes. You know, you can't just wake up one day and decide that it's over. I mean, I know Claire did, but you're really not supposed to do that. They sign a contract signing on for a certain amount of time. And it's like Katie was saying to Greg, like, trust our relationship. You know, we're so close to the end. Don't bail out now. It's going to be worth it. So, yeah, I agree with you a little bit. He did forget that he was on The Bachelorette.
He did. Because he kind of constantly always needed reassurance too, and he finally didn't get like an inch of that, and it was over for him, you know?
Yeah.
All right, Ben said, hi, Morgan and Avery. Do you think Greg came on the show in order to play the victim and gaslight Katie, or for genuine reasons? He seems to have flipped so quickly and turned into a creepy dude. I don't think those originally were his intentions going on the show, but I think he flipped a switch so quick because his mind was made up, and deep down he wasn't really in love with Katie, because if you are that in love, he would have been more willing to talk it out and listen to her more, but he was just like, nope, I'm done, I'm leaving.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think that he came on the show to play a victim and to gaslight the lead, right? Like, I don't think he got the call that he was going to be a contestant and was like, yes, I'm going to play the victim and I'm going to gaslight Katie. Like, I don't think that that was what it is. I also feel like we don't see a lot of their actual personality, even like with Greg. When they show the bloopers at the end, or even at the men tell all, there were all these little random, you know, moments from Greg that we didn't see on the show. I feel like he actually, on the show, he came off as very like stoic and serious and like, you know, into himself the whole time, not very outgoing or anything. But all those little snippets at the end, he's like dancing and he's making jokes, and all the guys are saying that like he was the funny one in the house. So I feel like it's really hard to actually judge these guys on their character when we only see, you know, 10% of it, in my opinion.
So true.
Yeah, but
I wish we saw more.
Yeah.
But you can only fit so much into every Monday night.
True.
Okay, Barb said, Team Katie here. She dodged a bullet. Yes, I think she did. I really think she did. I just don't think they're compatible at the end of the day. They're just not a match.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not like there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, in my opinion. Like, I know the situation was dicey. But like I said, I don't want to judge someone's character off of like a fight that I saw on a reality TV show, because there's a lot more depth to people. But I agree with you, Barb, in the sense that she dodged a bullet because their relationship would not have been the healthiest, right? And that's what we learned out of this big old fight, like I learned with my ex-boyfriend. Allison says, wow, this is a first final rose. Wow. I think she means seeing this photo. I hope, because there's a final rose on every season. But yeah, I was coming into this live thinking like, we haven't seen Katie in the final proposal outfit. And that's normally like what they lead with in promos. So I thought it was very strange that they waited until the last second. Do you have any like ideas on why they would do that, Avery?
Who knows? Maybe just to add a little more surprise factor, a little glimpse of hope at the very end, just when we thought we maybe like wouldn't even get a proposal. I don't know. They're interesting the way they navigate things, but that's a good point because I was like, we really haven't even seen a proposal like photo. Like, is it even happening after all this? But I'm glad it is.
Right. I mean, I just like think back to Tayshia, like even when she first came on the show, one of the first things we saw was her in that white one shoulder
Yeah.
dress, like, you know, outside. That was like the first promo that we saw. So I think it's definitely a change that we haven't seen her final proposal look until literally a week before the finale. They're like keeping us on the
Yeah.
edge of our seats.
Jennifer
All right,
said, like the
Jennifer.
color, but don't. Oh, do you want to take it?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, like the color, but don't like the pattern. I think the pattern's okay with the color. I don't really know what the pattern is, but they're either like rhinestones or like an actual like pattern. Either or, I still really think it's flattering on her.
Yeah, I do too. And I feel like if we learned anything from Katie, it's that well, I don't know. I was going to say that she doesn't pick normal things, but I feel like sometimes she picks too normal of things, I guess.
Yeah.
I hate to like
Mhm.
just, you know, trash her clothes because I would be the same way. I have no like real sense of style. I like find Pinterest photos and try to recreate it. So most times I'm just in like a graphic tee and in shorts. So I try to be like a little mindful about that with Katie's style, but I think she looks pretty here. So
Yeah.
okay, Terrence has a comment about Bachelor in Paradise. Demi and Kenny. I don't understand that lip bite thing. It looks like it hurts.
Mm, it's what the kids are
We're
doing
both just
nowadays.
like, I don't know what to say about Demi. Kenny. Yeah, I feel like everything Demi does is a little bit for like shock value. I don't know. Do you see Demi and Kenny together?
Not like lasting together. I could see them having maybe like a little fling that lasts like 2 days, but definitely not long term. I don't really see them as a pair. No.
Yeah. All right. Ida says Greg is in love and Katie is scripted and plays the role of Bachelorette, which is very interesting. I mean, that's kind of something that we touched on a little bit, but her terminology was a little off-putting, right? Like saying you're number one and you're going to get a rose but it's also so unnatural to be in that situation that it's like you kind of have to think like that because there's producers constantly in your ear asking you like who's your number one, who's your number two, you know? It's just I don't know. What do you
Yep.
think?
I totally agree. Like, it's not how you would react in, real life because you're in this like whole new world where stuff like that is fed to you. And there's only so much she can say. There's a lot of things that she actually can't say because this is a reality TV show. So I don't know. I think it was tough for her to like navigate around that. And like, yes, she did kind of like put him in position as like, oh, you've always been number one. And he's like, I don't want to be a number to you. But that's all she's been fed for the past weeks. It's kind of hard to just like snap out of that.
Yeah. Alrighty. We got another one from Julie. She kind of agrees here. You can really see the scriptedness, if that's a word. I don't know if it's a word, but we'll pretend like it is. I couldn't see it before. I feel like I do get glimpses of maybe not scripted as much as setups. Like when Greg saw Blake and Katie's one-on-one, I thought that was very set up because it's like, how does production know that Greg's going to walk out onto that balcony and he's going to look that direction? And we got to catch his reaction on camera. So that to me was kind of awkward.
Yes, definitely planned out. Primi said, Greg is not a gaslighter. Katie herself is gaslighting Greg. She wanted to play more Bachelorette role than finding love. Um, I don't think that was the full case here. I think she just got wrapped up into being the Bachelorette. And at the end of the day, she knew deep down that he wasn't the one. And I think she was just in so much shock about what was going on. Like, you know, when you're in shock and you can't get the words out, or you think back on a situation like, oh, I should have said this, this, and that. But in the moment, it's just all jumbled because there's so much going on. I think it's that. It's a tough situation to be in. I don't know how I would react. I know I probably wouldn't handle it the best either. And like we said, they both could have done better. But in the heat of the moment, like crazy things happen.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I was saying before, that I don't necessarily like to use that terminology, because when you label someone that, especially on social media, like that really sticks with them. And it is a little bit open to interpretation, right? Like, even if Katie did feel like Greg gaslit her, like her feelings are valid. Like, you're allowed to have those feelings. But I feel like when you put that on social media, you're just kind of adding fuel to the fire. And I just didn't love it. I know, like, I've been a fan of Katie, but I didn't love that she at least posted it publicly. I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the
I was
wrong
kind
way
of
a little bit.
surprised because now it's like people are going to go attack him. And that's like against everything she's like stood for this whole time. So it's tricky.
Oh, goodness. All right, you guys. Well, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much for watching. I know we have one final week until the finale. We literally have no idea how it's going to end, but we do know Katie will not be engaged to Justin. I think that's the takeaway information for the day. We don't even know if he's going to show up there to the end. But you guys, that's all we have to share with you. As always, we want to know your thoughts. If you missed our Q&A, please still leave comments. We'll respond to you a little bit later. And don't forget, we are releasing our video dissecting Michelle's men. We really get into it. We go through all of them, first impressions, reactions, predictions. That's coming up on our shared news channel very soon. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to our channel, ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of our Bachelor updates. There seems to be just more and more stuff coming out every single day. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you later. I'm your host, Morgan Wright, joined today by Avery Grooms, and we'll see you guys later. Say hi to us on social media. Our handles are on the screen right now, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye.
Bye.